Okay, so to ensure that you understand your child's rights to a free and appropriate public education, I'm going to be going over the procedural safeguards that protect your child's rights in the school system. Initially, you will receive a copy of the safeguards annually upon your request, or if a situation comes up where a disciplinary action is to take place with your student. The safeguards will be given to you, and here they are. And I want you to feel free to stop me and ask any clarifying questions about what we're discussing, as we want you, the parent, to be actively involved in your child's educational experience and also be advocating for what you believe that they will need. For the initial evaluation of your student or reevaluation down the road of your child's disability, you will be given a notice within 10 school days before the meeting with an explanation of what will be taking place. A written notice will be given to you about any proposed or refused changes to your child's IEP as well, and that will take place within 10 business days after the date of the meeting today. So if you do not want to sign the consent form today, it will be given to you at the end of this meeting. You have 10 days to sign it before we have to have another conference. And also, if you need the notice in a different language, we can give that to you, or if you need a translator during any of the meetings, we can also provide that. The school and the IEP team will need your written consent or approval before we can move forward with certain things within your child's education. It will be ensured that you are given all of this information within your native language and it is fully explained to you before we move forward as well. We will need your consent in 7 different areas before we can make steps towards giving your child special education services, and I've highlighted all of those in your safeguards. So we're not going to go over all of them today, but some important ones that I want you to be aware of is that we'll need your approval for your child's evaluation and the initial IEP services, as we cannot give them any services or update their IEP without your approval. And because your child is in elementary school, we do not need to begin worrying about the cost of transition services, but those will be something that will also need your approval so that we can reach out to organizations that will assist us in your child's future transition. If they're still in need of special education at that point. You have the ability to decline consent or revoke your consent of the services that your child is receiving, as it is a voluntary situation, but you are not able to revoke consent for only parts of your child's IEP. It's something that you will take away all of the services and not just some of them unless your child is in need of special education in some ways that were initially on the IEP, and then we can take them away as your child grows, which is something that we'll talk about in annual case conferences. A case conference committee is what we're currently a part of, but this is just a meeting in between all of the people that are involved in educating your child and you, and these meetings are to decide if your child will need special education services still, and it will decide what accommodations are appropriate and which ones we need to change as your child grows. We will annually meet until your child doesn't need special education, unless something throughout the year occurs that will need a case conference to configure a plan. So this would be more of an emergency. Your child is protected under confidentiality laws, where personal information will not be shared with people who are not involved with your child. You have the right to view your child's files per request, unless the court has ordered against it. And there's a highlighted list of people in the safeguards that I gave you that the school can give information to without your consent, and this is only for the benefit of your child that any information will be discussed. The school is required to file for your consent in any other situation, and once your student does turn 18, all of their rights are turned over to them unless the guardian is appointed, and a guardian is needed once they turn 18. It is also important to mention that if a disciplinary action is to take place with your child, like a more serious disciplinary action like suspension or expulsion, we will conduct what's called a manifestation determination, and this looks at if the behavior that occurred was because of your student's disability or if it was something that requires a stronger disciplinary action. If it's necessary, we'll create a behavior plans for your child to work through what issues that we see arise, but as of right now, that isn't an area of concern for your student. But if it becomes one, we will be conducting one of those. You are able to file complaints at any point if you do not believe that we are following your child's IEP as we are supposed to, and if we're not meeting the needs of your student as we've written down. And these complaints should be made to the Indiana Department of Education, and their contact can be found online. And also, in the back of the procedural safeguards, A due process is also something that can occur when you are of the belief that your child's services are not are not matching what the school is asking of you. And if you cannot come to an agreement, this is a legal process to argue that the accommodations are not being fulfilled or are not being placed correctly. And this is a very rare case, as normally the school system and parents can come to an agreement by themselves to find what is best for the child. And then the final page of your document is different resources for more information if you need it. But we're also a resource for you if you have any questions. We know that this is so much information to take in at once, so please feel free to reach out and we can set up a meeting after school or a phone call to clarify anything that you're confused about before we continue this meeting. But we're really excited to begin working with your student and to start meeting their needs and give them the best school experience that we can.